Stop. This is not random. This is not an accident. You did not click on this by mistake. God is saying to you right now, you prayed for a sign, and this is it. Think back to the moment you whispered that prayer. Maybe it was late at night when no one else could hear you. Maybe it was in the middle of your exhaustion, when your heart felt heavy and your options seemed limited. You said, God, if you're listening, show me something. Give me a sign. I need to know you're still with me. And heaven heard every word. Not one tear was ignored. Not one sigh was dismissed. And now, here you are. That is not coincidence. That is divine orchestration. There is a reason the message says, a powerful blessing is waiting at your door tonight. Tonight is not just a casual word. It carries urgency. It carries timing. There are moments in life when eternity touches time, when the spiritual realm leans into the natural and says, now. This is one of those moments. You may have been waiting for weeks, months, maybe even years. You have questioned, doubted, wondered if you misunderstood God's promises. But what if the delay was not denial? What if the silence was preparation? And what if this very moment is the shift you have been crying out for? Do not scroll past this. That instruction is not about social media. It is spiritual. Scrolling past can be symbolic of walking past opportunity, dismissing conviction, ignoring the gentle nudge of the Holy Spirit. Many people miss their blessings not because God did not send them, but because they did not recognize them. They expected thunder, but God whispered. They expected fire from heaven, but God sent a simple message at the exact right time. What if this is your whisper? What if this is the knock on your heart that you have been waiting for? You prayed for a sign, but signs rarely come wrapped in flashing lights. Sometimes they come as a sudden stirring in your spirit, a pause in your routine, a message that grips you and will not let you move on. If something inside you feels alert right now, that is not emotion. That is alignment. That is heaven drawing your attention. Because a powerful blessing is waiting at your door tonight. Not next year. Not someday. Tonight. The enemy would love for you to treat this as just another video, just another message, just another voice in a noisy world. But there is something different about this moment. You feel it. There is an urgency in your chest. A sense that this might be the answer to the prayer you thought no one heard. The prayer you almost regretted praying because you felt foolish for hoping again. But God is not mocking you. He is responding to you. Let me tell you something rare and powerful. When God sends a sign, it often comes at the moment when you are about to give up, when your faith is tired, when your heart is bruised, when you are seconds away from saying, maybe this isn't meant for me. That is when heaven interrupts. That is when God says, stop. Before you walk away, see what I'm about to do. This is that interruption. There is a blessing with your name on it. It is not generic. It is not random. It is specific. It has been prepared in advance, tailored to the very thing you have been asking for. For some of you, it is restoration. For others, it is clarity. For others, it is provision, healing, or a door opening that you thought was permanently closed. But here is the truth. Blessings require awareness. If you are not watching, you can miss the knock. Imagine someone standing outside your door with a package you desperately need. They knock. But inside, you are distracted. You are doubting whether anything good could be for you. You are replaying old disappointments. And so you hesitate. You delay. You wonder if it is worth getting up to check. This message is God saying, Get up. Go to the door. Do not ignore this. There are seasons when God allows us to feel the weight of waiting so that when the blessing comes, we recognize its value. You have been in that waiting season. You have felt overlooked. You have felt like others were moving forward while you remained stuck. But what you did not see was the preparation happening behind the scenes. The door was being positioned. The timing was being aligned. The blessing was being formed. And now, the announcement is simple but urgent. Open this before it disappears. Not because God is cruel, not because He plays games, but because obedience has a window. Faith has a moment. When God moves, He invites response. This is your invitation. So pause. Breathe. Recognize that this is sacred. You asked for a sign, and this is it. The blessing is not far away. It is not hidden in some distant future. It is at your door tonight. The only question is, will you recognize it? Will you respond? Because what happens next could shift everything. Think back to the exact moment you asked God for a sign. It may not have been dramatic. There were no witnesses, no spotlight, just you in the silence. Maybe you were lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, your thoughts racing. Maybe you were sitting in your car after a long day, hands gripping the steering wheel, whispering, God, I can't keep going like this. If you're there, show me something. That prayer did not disappear into the air. It did not fade into nothing. Heaven recorded it. Heaven responded to it. And now God is saying, you prayed for a sign, and this is it. You have to understand something powerful. God does not ignore desperate prayers. When your voice trembled, when your heart felt uncertain, when you questioned whether you were worthy of an answer, God was not distant. He was attentive. Every tear was seen. Every word was weighed. Even the prayers you could not fully form, the groans, the sighs, the moments when all you could say was help me, they were heard. And when you asked for a sign, you were not testing God. You were reaching for reassurance. You were asking for confirmation that you are not walking alone. But here is the surprising truth. Signs do not always arrive the way we expect them to. We imagine something spectacular, a sudden miracle, a dramatic shift, a booming voice from heaven. Yet often, God sends a sign in a way that requires sensitivity. He speaks through timing, through alignment, through a message that appears at the exact second your faith needed reinforcement. This is how He works. Subtle yet precise. Gentle yet undeniable. Right now, you might feel a strange mix of emotions. Curiosity, belief, maybe even hesitation. That hesitation comes from past disappointments. You have hoped before. You have believed before. And when things did not happen the way you thought they would, you guarded your heart. You told yourself not to expect too much. But God is breaking through that protective wall today. He is reminding you that faith is not foolish. Trust is not weakness. And asking for a sign was not desperation. It was dependence. The reason this message feels different is because it intersects with your private conversation with God. No one else knew what you prayed. No one else heard the words you spoke under your breath. Yet somehow, this moment feels personal. That is because it is. God answers specifically. He knows the details. He knows what you have been wrestling with. He knows the decision hanging over your head. He knows the relationship you have been worrying about. He knows the financial pressure, the emotional exhaustion, the spiritual confusion. And when you said, God, show me a sign. You were asking him to step into that exact situation. And he is. A powerful blessing is waiting at your door tonight. But before you can fully receive it, you must recognize that it was initiated by your own prayer. You opened this door through your request. You activated this moment when you chose to reach out instead of giving up. There is something sacred about that. It means you are not forgotten. It means you are not overlooked. It means your life is being carefully guided, even when it feels uncertain. Let me gently challenge you. Do not dismiss this as coincidence. Coincidence does not align with desperation so perfectly. Coincidence does not arrive wrapped in the exact language your spirit understands. God answers in ways that bypass logic and go straight to the heart. If your heart feels stirred right now, pay attention. That stirring is confirmation. And here is something important. When you receive a sign, there is a response required, not to earn the blessing, but to align yourself with it. Gratitude positions you. Expectation prepares you. Faith opens the door wider. So right now, begin to shift your posture. Instead of asking, "Is this really for me?" begin to say, "God, I receive what you are doing." If this message resonates with the prayer you whispered, take a moment to acknowledge it. Like this video as a declaration that you believe God is speaking. Subscribe to this channel so you do not miss the confirmations heaven sends your way. And write in the comments, "I asked for a sign, and I receive it." When you do that, you are not just engaging with a video, you are making a statement of faith. You are saying publicly what you once said privately. God, I trust you. There is power in that declaration. The truth is, you would not be here if your season was over. You would not be hearing this if God had abandoned your situation. This is not the end of your story. This is the turning point. The sign you asked for is not only proof that God heard you, it is proof that movement is happening behind the scenes. Doors are aligning. Favor is shifting. Circumstances are adjusting in ways you cannot yet see. You prayed for a sign, and heaven responded. Now prepare your heart, because what comes next will reveal just how close your blessing truly is. When God says a powerful blessing is waiting at your door tonight, He is not speaking in poetry. He is revealing position. The door represents transition. It represents movement from one season into another. It represents access. For a long time, you have felt like you were standing in a hallway, waiting, uncertain, surrounded by closed entrances. You knocked. You prayed. You hoped. But nothing seemed to open. Now God is saying the door is not across the street. It is not miles away. It is at your door. That means the blessing is no longer distant. It is near. It is positioned. It is ready. But what does that truly mean? It means the season of delay is shifting into a season of decision. Doors do not open themselves permanently. They require response. When a blessing waits at your door, it signals divine readiness. Heaven has completed its preparation. The question now is whether you are prepared to step forward. Many people pray for change, but when change stands in front of them, it feels unfamiliar. It feels risky. It feels different from what they imagined. And sometimes, fear disguises itself as caution. The door is symbolic of opportunity, but it is also symbolic of responsibility. What God is about to release into your life will require maturity. It will require trust. It will require you to let go of the identity you formed in the waiting season. You cannot carry doubt into a room filled with promise. You cannot bring yesterday's disappointments into tomorrow's breakthrough. That is why this moment is so critical. A powerful blessing is waiting. That means it carries weight. It carries impact. This is not a small adjustment. This is not a minor improvement. This is something that has the ability to shift your direction. For some of you, this door represents restoration in a relationship that looked impossible. For others, it represents financial relief that removes constant pressure. For others, it represents clarity, finally knowing which step to take next after months of confusion. Whatever it is specific, it is intentional, and it is close. But here is the warning: doubt can delay what has already been sent. When you question your worthiness, when you replay past failures, when you assume that good things are for other people but not for you, you hesitate at the door. And hesitation creates distance. God is not withholding the blessing. He is waiting for your agreement. He is waiting for your yes. Because blessings are not forced upon you. They are received. They are divine appointments in life. Moments that are orchestrated so precisely that if you miss them, you feel the absence for years. This is why the title says, "Don't scroll past. Open this urgently before it disappears." The urgency is not about pressure. It is about awareness. Opportunities have timing. Favor has windows. And when heaven aligns something for you, it deserves your full attention. Tonight is not random. There are spiritual shifts that happen quietly. You may not hear thunder. You may not see visible signs. But something is aligning. Something is moving. There is a rearrangement taking place behind the scenes. Conversations you know nothing about. Decisions forming in the hearts of people connected to your future. Circumstances bending in your favor. The blessing at your door is the result of prayers you prayed weeks ago. It is the harvest of seeds you planted when no one was watching. The door also represents transition from limitation to expansion. When you step through it, you leave behind a version of yourself that survived on hope alone. You step into a reality where hope becomes tangible. That can feel overwhelming. Sometimes we grow comfortable in waiting because waiting feels safe. It does not require risk. But walking through a door means embracing the unknown. It means trusting that what God has prepared is better than what you are leaving behind. Listen carefully. The fact that you are hearing this now is not ordinary. It is alignment. It is confirmation layered upon confirmation. If your spirit feels alert, if your heart feels slightly stirred, if something inside you is whispering, "This is for me," do not ignore that voice. That is discernment awakening. And here is something deeply important. The blessing at your door is not just about you. It will overflow. When God blesses you, He often intends for that blessing to become a testimony for someone else. Your breakthrough will strengthen another person's faith. Your restoration will inspire someone who was about to give up. Your open door will remind others that God still moves. So here is your moment of agreement. If this resonates with you, if you sense that something is shifting, type "I receive IT" in the comments right now. Blessing code 144 is now activated. As you write those words, you are not performing a ritual, you are making a declaration. You are aligning your faith with what heaven has already positioned at your door. And remember this gently, but seriously. What you are about to understand next will clarify why the timing of tonight matters more than you realize. There is a layer to this blessing that has not yet been revealed, and when you see it, everything will make sense. You will be glad you stayed for what is about to unfold. If this message is speaking directly into your season, this is your moment to turn revelation into action. When you sow into this mission through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal, the link is in the description, and the PayPal QR code is on your screen. You are not giving to a channel. You are placing seed into soil that carries God's word to thousands who are still waiting at their doors. Scripture declares that as you sow, you will also reap, and that promise is alive over you right now. I feel led to say this plainly. I am stepping into this blessing, and I choose to fuel the light that guides others into theirs. Your giving becomes oil that keeps this lamp burning, fire that refuses to go out. Do not hesitate when the Spirit prompts you. Move as an act of obedience. As you give, may open doors multiply in your life. May provision chase you down, and may favor surround you. Activate your seed. Release it now. There are moments in life when timing is everything. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Not when you feel more ready. Tonight. When God says a powerful blessing is waiting at your door tonight, it is because there is a window attached to it. Divine timing is different from human timing. You operate by calendars and clocks, but God operates by appointed moments. There is a spiritual alignment happening right now that will not feel the same a week from now. This is what makes obedience urgent. You may ask, why does it have to be tonight? Why the emphasis? Because hesitation has a cost. Every time God moves, He invites response. When you delay that response, the momentum shifts. Think about opportunities you once sensed but postponed. Think about conversations you felt prompted to have but avoided. Often, it is not that the opportunity disappears completely, but the ease of it fades. The grace attached to that specific moment changes. Tonight carries grace for movement. There is a concept in the spiritual realm that speaks of appointed time, moments when preparation meets readiness. You have been prepared through your waiting. You have been refined through your struggles. You have been strengthened through your disappointments. But preparation alone does not create breakthrough. Action does. When the door is placed in front of you, standing still is no longer growth. Stepping forward is. You have prayed for clarity. You have asked God to show you what to do next. What if this is the clarity? What if the instruction is not complicated but simple? Respond. A blessing at your door does not force entry. It knocks. It waits. It invites. But it will not remain indefinitely. The urgency is not meant to scare you. It is meant to awaken you. You are closer than you think, and the next step requires courage in the present moment. There is also something about the night that makes this powerful. Night is often when doubts grow louder. It is when fears replay themselves. It is when loneliness feels heavier. But it is also when faith becomes more intentional. Choosing to believe at night is different from believing in the daylight. When everything around you is quiet and uncertain, and you still choose to open the door, that is bold faith. That is trust without visible evidence. The enemy would prefer you say, I will think about it. He would prefer you wait until your emotions feel stronger. He would prefer you analyze it until the urgency fades. Because he understands something. Delayed obedience weakens confidence. The longer you wait, the more you second guess. The more you second guess, the more you retreat. And retreat keeps doors closed. But tonight is not about retreat. It is about response. Opening the door may look different for each of you. For some, it means making a decision you have been postponing. For others, it means forgiving someone you have held resentment toward. For others, it means stepping into an opportunity that feels slightly beyond your comfort zone. For others, it means finally believing that you are worthy of what God promised. The action may vary, but the principle is the same. Move when prompted. You must understand that divine timing often intersects with human hesitation. And in that intersection, character is revealed? Will you trust what you cannot fully see? Will you move without having every detail explained? Will you choose faith over fear, even when your past experiences try to convince you to stay cautious? This is the moment that separates intention from transformation. You have intended to change. You have intended to grow. You have intended to trust God more deeply. Tonight is the opportunity to turn intention into movement. Because once you open the door, you cannot go back to standing in the hallway wondering what might have been. There is also another layer to this urgency. Blessings often come disguised as responsibility. If you open this door, you may find that what waits on the other side requires discipline, commitment, and courage. That is why hesitation feels tempting. Staying where you are feels predictable. But you did not pray for predictable. You prayed for breakthrough. And breakthrough requires stepping into new territory. Do not underestimate how long this door has been in preparation. Conversations have aligned. Circumstances have shifted. Timing has been arranged. You may not see the complexity of what God coordinated behind the scenes, but it was intentional. And when heaven invests that much detail into your moment, responding with urgency honors that preparation. Tonight is not about pressure. It is about alignment. The blessing is ready. The question is whether you will meet it halfway. You asked for a sign. You received confirmation. Now comes the critical part, opening the door without delay. Because sometimes the difference between a missed opportunity and a life-changing testimony is one simple decision made at the right time. Before a blessing arrives, distraction increases. Have you noticed that? Just when you begin to sense that something is shifting, suddenly everything feels louder. Problems seem bigger. Doubts seem stronger. Small inconveniences turn into major frustrations. It is not random. When a powerful blessing is waiting at your door tonight, you can be certain that opposition tried to intercept it long before it reached you. The enemy does not always attack with obvious chaos. Sometimes he uses subtle distraction. He keeps you busy. He fills your mind with worry. He magnifies minor issues until they consume your attention. His goal is simple. If he cannot stop the blessing from being sent, he will try to stop you from recognizing it. Because a distracted mind rarely discerns divine timing. Think about the past few days. Has there been unusual frustration? Unnecessary conflict? A wave of discouragement that seemed heavier than normal? That is not coincidence. That is resistance reacting to proximity. When you are far from breakthrough, the pressure is lighter. But when you are close, resistance intensifies. Not because you are failing, but because you are advancing. Distraction is powerful because it feels harmless. Scrolling endlessly, overthinking conversations, replaying worst-case scenarios, comparing your life to others. None of these seem dramatic on the surface, but they slowly drain your focus. And when your focus is drained, you miss the knock at the door. The title said, "Don't scroll past." That instruction carries spiritual weight. Scrolling is symbolic of avoidance. It represents the habit of moving quickly past what feels uncomfortable or unfamiliar. When something challenges your doubt or confronts your fear, the easiest response is to move on. But what if this is the moment you were meant to stop? What if pausing right here is the very act of resistance against distraction? The enemy understands momentum. If he can keep you emotionally exhausted, you will not have the energy to open new doors. If he can keep you mentally preoccupied, you will not notice divine alignment. If he can keep you spiritually discouraged, you will assume that nothing good is coming. But here is the truth. The intensity of distraction is evidence of the value of what is approaching. You would not experience such targeted resistance if the blessing were insignificant. The size of the distraction often reveals the size of the breakthrough. That unexpected argument, that sudden wave of self-doubt, that temptation to isolate yourself, they are all attempts to shift your attention away from what God is positioning in front of you. And here is something deeper. Sometimes distraction does not come through negativity. Sometimes it comes through comfort. You become comfortable in routine, comfortable in limitation, comfortable in expecting less. When you lower your expectations, you feel safer. If you expect little, you cannot be disappointed. But that mindset quietly locks the door before you ever touch the handle. The enemy wants you to normalize delay, to say, maybe next month, to assume, it probably won't happen for me, to settle into survival mode instead of expectation. Because survival mode keeps you passive, and passivity keeps doors closed. But tonight is not a passive night. Here is a reason you feel a pull to pay attention. A reason this message feels different from the noise you scroll through daily. That pull is your spirit pushing past distraction. It is clarity breaking through mental fog. It is awareness returning after a season of heaviness. Understand this. The battle before the breakthrough is often psychological. It happens in your thoughts. You are not ready. This will not work. You have failed too many times. These thoughts are not harmless. They are strategic. They aim to weaken your confidence at the very moment you need courage. But courage does not mean absence of fear. It means action in the presence of it. The blessing at your door does not require perfection. It requires willingness. It requires you to say, even if I feel uncertain, I will respond. Distraction loses power when you recognize it. Once you see the pattern, you are no longer controlled by it. When you notice frustration rising, instead of reacting emotionally, you pause and ask, is this trying to pull me away from something important? When doubt surfaces, instead of agreeing with it, you challenge it with faith. Awareness is resistance. And let me tell you something with conviction. You are too close to let distraction win now. The door is not hypothetical. It is positioned. The blessing is not imaginary. It is prepared. The timing is not vague. It is tonight. The enemy tried to exhaust you before this moment. He tried to occupy your thoughts. He tried to make you scroll past the very confirmation you prayed for. But you are still here. You are still listening. That means distraction did not succeed. And now the decision becomes clear. Will you continue to engage with the noise, or will you turn fully toward the knock at your door? Because breakthrough requires attention, and attention requires intention. You have survived the distraction. Now prepare to step into the release. There is something you must understand clearly tonight. This blessing is not generic. It is not a mass-produced promise thrown into the air for anyone to grab. It is personal. It has your name attached to it. It has been shaped around your prayers, your struggles, your obedience, and even your silent endurance. When God says a powerful blessing is waiting at your door tonight, He is not speaking to a crowd. He is speaking to you. You may have spent years feeling unseen, overlooked, like your efforts went unnoticed and your sacrifices unrecognized. You watched others receive opportunities. You watched others step into joy. And quietly, you wondered, when will it be my turn? But here is the truth. Your journey was never being compared to theirs. Your path has always been uniquely designed. And because it is unique, the blessing prepared for you had to be tailored. God does not confuse destinies. He does not misdeliver promises. What is meant for you will not accidentally land in someone else's hands. That is why you can release comparison. You can let go of resentment. You can stop measuring your timeline against someone else's progress. The blessing at your door is calibrated to your calling. For some of you, this blessing answers a financial prayer you have been too embarrassed to talk about. Bills that stacked up quietly. Pressure you carried alone. God saw the anxiety behind your smile. He heard the whispered calculations late at night. For others, this blessing touches your emotional world. Healing from betrayal. Restoration of confidence. Freedom from a weight you have been carrying for years. And for some, this blessing is spiritual clarity. Direction where there was confusion. Peace where there was chaos. It is personal because the pain was personal. The nights you cried were personal. The disappointments were personal. The faith you held on to when you felt foolish for believing was personal. And now the response is personal too. This is not random favor. This is intentional reward. You may struggle to believe that something good could be specifically designed for you. Perhaps you have internalized the idea that you must fight for every ounce of progress, that nothing comes easily, that blessings are rare and reserved for the fortunate. But God does not operate by human limitation. He is not rationing goodness. He is releasing it according to purpose. And your purpose has not been canceled. Sometimes we assume that because we've made mistakes, we disqualified ourselves. Because we doubted, we delayed destiny. Because we stumbled, we forfeited favor. But God's preparation accounts for your humanity. He knew your weak moments before you had them. He understood your learning curve. And still, He prepared this door. This blessing will not look exactly like you imagined. It may arrive in a form that stretches you. It may require you to think differently, to move differently, to believe differently. But that does not mean it is not yours. In fact, growth often accompanies personalization. What fits you perfectly may still require you to expand. There is also something powerful about the timing of personal blessings. They often arrive when you have reached the edge of your endurance. Not to test you further, but to prove that your endurance was not wasted. The strength you built in the waiting season is what enables you to sustain the blessing when it comes. This is not temporary relief. This is divine repositioning. When you open this door, you are stepping into a version of your life that aligns more closely with your prayers. You are stepping into answered requests. You are stepping into movement after stagnation. And because it is personal, it will resonate deeply. You will recognize it. Something inside you will say, "This is what I was hoping for." But here is a key truth. Personalization requires participation. You must be willing to receive. You must allow yourself to believe that this is not too good to be true. That you are not being set up for disappointment. That God is not teasing you with possibility. Fear will try to protect you from hope. It will whisper, "Don't get excited. You've been let down before." But hope is not your enemy. It is your bridge. The blessing at your door carries your name because your obedience brought you here. Every time you chose not to quit, you moved closer. Every time you prayed despite doubt, you aligned yourself further. Every time you resisted bitterness, you kept the pathway clear. And now the moment has arrived where personalization becomes manifestation. You are not just another face in a crowd of believers. You are not just one among many waiting for breakthrough. You are individually known, individually seen, individually guided. The blessing is personal because God is personal. So when you open that door tonight, do not step through timidly. Step through with confidence. This was designed with you in mind. If it's your season, if it's your growth, if it's your destiny. The waiting was personal. The struggle was personal. And now, the blessing is personal too. Before every testimony, there is a test. Before every open door, there is a hallway of uncertainty. Before the blessing becomes visible, faith must stand alone. You are standing in that space right now, the space between promise and manifestation. And it is not comfortable. It never is. But it is necessary. You have been tested in ways you did not expect. Not with dramatic trials that everyone could see, but with quiet endurance that no one applauded. You were tested in patience when answers did not come quickly. You were tested in trust when outcomes did not make sense. You were tested in character when you had every reason to respond with bitterness but chose restraint instead. These were not random hardships. They were qualifications. A powerful blessing is waiting at your door tonight. But understand this: you would not be able to sustain it without the test that came before it. Tests build capacity. They stretch your perspective. They strengthen your foundation. If the blessing had arrived too early, it might have crushed you instead of elevating you. Timing matters because readiness matters. Think about the moments you almost gave up. The prayers that felt unanswered. The doors that closed without explanation. In those moments, you may have thought you were being rejected. But what if you were being refined? What if the delay was shaping your resilience? What if the silence was building your discernment? Tests do not always look like progress, but they often prepare you for it. The test before the testimony often feels like isolation. You may have felt alone in your struggle, like no one truly understood the internal battle you were fighting. Outwardly, you continued functioning. You smiled. You worked. You showed up. But inwardly, you were wrestling with doubt and fatigue. That private struggle was part of the process. It revealed what you truly believed when external validation disappeared. There is something powerful about faith that survives without applause. When no one is encouraging you. When no visible evidence supports you. When the only thing you have is a whisper from God saying, "Trust me." Choosing to trust in that environment is a test. And you passed more times than you realize. The test also exposed areas that needed growth. Maybe you discovered impatience in yourself. Maybe you realized how deeply you relied on control. Maybe you saw fear surface in ways that surprised you. But revelation is not condemnation. When God allows tests, it is not to shame you. It is to strengthen you. Awareness becomes transformation. Here's the truth: testimonies are born from tension. They emerge from the place where quitting felt logical but persistence felt right. You are about to step into a testimony that will make sense of your tension. One day you will look back and see that the hardest moments were the very ones that positioned you for this blessing. The blessing at your door is not random favor falling from the sky. It is the continuation of a process that began long ago. Every challenge was shaping your perspective so that when the blessing arrives, you recognize its value. When you have fought for peace, you cherish it differently. When you have endured scarcity, provision feels sacred. When you have survived confusion, clarity feels powerful. Tests also reveal loyalty. Not loyalty to people, but loyalty to purpose. Did you remain aligned with your values when it would have been easier to compromise? Did you hold on to integrity when cutting corners seemed tempting? Those unseen decisions matter. They build the kind of character that can carry blessing without corruption. It is important to understand that the enemy often intensifies the test right before the breakthrough. Pressure increases. Doubts amplify. Old temptations resurface. This is not because you are regressing. It is because you are nearing transition. Resistance often spikes when movement is imminent. The hallway feels longest when the door is closest. And here you are, still standing, still believing, still listening. That alone is evidence that the test did not defeat you. Now the testimony is forming. It may not be fully visible yet, but it is closer than ever. The story you will tell will not begin with ease. It will begin with perseverance. It will begin with nights of uncertainty and days of quiet faithfulness. And that is what will give your testimony weight. Anyone can celebrate results, but only those who endured the test can speak with depth. When you open the door tonight, remember this. You are not stepping into something you stumbled upon. You are stepping into something you were prepared for. The test was not punishment. It was preparation. It was proof that you could handle what is coming. So do not resent the season you just survived. Honor it. It trained you and matured you. It strengthened your spiritual muscles. And now, as the door stands before you, understand that you are not the same person who first prayed for a sign. You have grown. You have deepened. You have been refined. The testimony is about to begin. And when it does, you will realize that every test was worth it. There is a knock happening right now. Not a physical sound you can hear with your ears, but a movement in the spirit that you can sense if you are attentive. The powerful blessing is waiting at your door tonight, and before it manifests in the natural, it announces itself in the spiritual. That is what you may be feeling in this moment, a shift you cannot fully explain. Sometimes the knock in the spirit realm comes as unusual peace in the middle of chaos. When everything around you suggests panic, yet something within you remains steady. That calm is not accidental. It is confirmation. Other times, the knock comes through repetition, messages aligning, conversations repeating the same theme, scriptures or phrases appearing again and again. You begin to notice a pattern. That pattern is alignment. You may have even experienced dreams recently that felt more vivid than usual, or sudden thoughts that carried clarity instead of confusion, or a gentle but persistent feeling that something is about to change. These are not coincidences. They are signals. When heaven prepares to release something significant, it often stirs the spirit before it shifts the circumstance. The challenge is discernment, because not every thought is divine, and not every feeling is spiritual. But when something resonates deeply, when it feels consistent, peaceful, and persistent, that is often how God communicates. The knock does not create fear. It awakens awareness. Right now, there is a difference between coincidence and calling. Coincidence feels random and forgettable. Calling feels intentional and weighty. This moment carries weight. It is not something you scroll past and forget 5 minutes later. It lingers. It pulls at your attention. That lingering sensation is part of the knock. The spirit realm operates beyond what you can see. While you have been navigating your daily routines, there has been movement behind the scenes. Alignments forming. Obstacles being removed. Hearts being softened. Opportunities being positioned. The blessing at your door did not suddenly appear. It has been traveling toward you through unseen pathways. And tonight, the knock becomes clear. You may feel a mixture of anticipation and vulnerability. That is normal. When doors open, they expose new spaces. They invite you into unfamiliar territory. But do not mistake unfamiliarity for danger. Growth often feels unfamiliar. Expansion often feels uncomfortable at first. The knock is also an invitation to attention. You cannot respond to what you ignore. This is why awareness matters so deeply in this season. If your mind is scattered, you will miss subtle guidance. If your heart is hardened by disappointment, you will misinterpret opportunity as risk. Stay soft. Stay attentive. Let me say something that may awaken you. Some of you have already heard the knock, but you questioned it. You sensed an idea forming. You felt the nudge to take a step. You noticed a door slightly opening. But because it did not look dramatic, you dismissed it. You told yourself you were imagining things. Yet the persistence of that feeling has not left. That persistence is the spirit realm knocking again. God does not shout over chaos. He often whispers through clarity. The reason this message resonates is because it aligns with what you have already been sensing. It confirms what your spirit suspected but your mind doubted. And here is something important. What comes next requires your attention more than ever. Because the final instruction attached to this blessing will determine how smoothly you transition into it. There is one more layer of understanding that you must receive before the door fully opens. You will be glad you stayed connected for what is about to be revealed. Right now, if this resonates, type "My door is open" in the comments. Blessing code 289 is now activated. As you write it, you are not performing superstition. You are making agreement. You are saying, "I recognize the knock. I am aware. I am ready." Agreement amplifies alignment. And as you acknowledge this moment, remember that recognition is the first step toward reception. The spirit realm has already initiated movement. The knock is real. The blessing is positioned. Now your response determines how the natural realm reflects what has already shifted in the spiritual. What you are sensing right now is not just for you. It is a flame meant to spread. When you sow into this mission through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal, the link is in the description, and the PayPal QR code is on your screen. You are helping this knock reach someone else who is still asleep to their moment. The word declares that when you give, it is given back to you, pressed down and overflowing, and that promise breathes over your seed tonight. I feel this strongly. I am responding to the knock, and I will fuel the sound that awakens others. Your gift becomes oil in the lamp, keeping this prophetic light burning across nations. Do not delay when heaven nudges you. Move swiftly and let your obedience echo. As you release your seed, may doors open in rapid succession, may favor pursue you, and may your harvest exceed expectation. Act now and seal this moment with faith. You have heard the message. You have sensed the shift. You have recognized the knock. Now everything comes down to one defining truth. Your response determines the release. A powerful blessing is waiting at your door tonight, but blessings do not force themselves into your life. They respond to alignment. They respond to agreement. They respond to faith in motion. God has already moved. The preparation has already happened. The positioning is already complete. But there is a partnership in every promise. Heaven initiates. You respond. When you respond correctly, what is waiting begins to flow freely. When you hesitate, you create resistance that slows what was meant to accelerate. Response is not about perfection. It is about posture. Are you approaching this moment with gratitude or suspicion? With expectation or fear? With openness or guardedness? Your internal posture shapes your external experience. If you approach the door believing that nothing good ever happens to you, you will find reasons to doubt even when evidence stands in front of you. But if you approach with humility and trust, you create space for the blessing to unfold naturally. Gratitude is one of the most powerful responses you can offer. Thanking God before you fully see the manifestation signals trust. It says, I believe you are working even when I cannot see every detail. Gratitude shifts your focus from lack to provision. It realigns your thoughts with faith instead of fear. And when your mind aligns, your actions follow. Obedience is another key response. Sometimes the instruction attached to a blessing feels simple. Make the call. Send the message. Submit the application. Forgive the offense. Take the step. Yet simplicity does not mean insignificance. Often, small acts of obedience unlock large doors. You may underestimate how powerful your next step is because it feels ordinary. But obedience transforms ordinary movement into extraordinary outcome. There is also something called expectancy. Expectancy is not wishful thinking. It is confident anticipation. It is waking up believing that something good is aligning. It is carrying yourself with quiet assurance that you are not forgotten. Expectancy changes how you speak. It changes how you interpret events. Instead of assuming delaying means denial, you begin to interpret delay as alignment. Your response determines whether this becomes just another encouraging moment or a defining turning point. You can treat this as inspiration and move on and change, or you can treat it as instruction and act. And here is where courage becomes necessary, because responding in faith means stepping forward without complete visibility. It means opening the door before you fully know what is behind it. A vulnerability can feel intimidating. But understand this, hesitation often feels safer than faith, yet it produces regret. Faith may feel risky, but it produces growth. Tonight, choose growth. Some of you need to verbally declare your agreement. Words carry power. They reinforce belief. When you speak faith, you strengthen it. Say out loud, I receive what God is releasing. Even if your voice trembles, say it. Let your ears hear your faith. Let your environment witness your expectation. And do not underestimate the power of shared agreement. When you engage with this message, when you write your declaration in the comments, when you publicly acknowledge that you believe God is moving, you create accountability for your faith. You step out of isolation and into community. There is strength in collective belief. If this message is aligning with your spirit, take a moment right now to like this video as a sign of your agreement. Subscribe to this channel so you continue receiving confirmations that strengthen your walk. And share this message with someone who has been praying for a sign, because your act of sharing may become the answer to their silent prayer. When you do that, you are not just engaging with content, you are participating in release. There is also a deeper level of response, surrender. Release the need to control every outcome. Release the need to understand every detail. Surrender says, God, I trust your process more than my perception. And trust accelerates movement. The final instruction attached to this blessing is simple but profound. Do not retreat. When the door begins to open, do not step back because it feels unfamiliar. Lean forward. Walk through. Trust that the same God who positioned the door will sustain you inside the room. You are not powerless in this moment. You are positioned. The release is waiting on your agreement. The acceleration is waiting on your action. The manifestation is waiting on your movement. And as you prepare to step fully into what is being opened, understand this: what happens next will reveal the seriousness of timing and the cost of ignoring divine moments. The next revelation carries weight, and you need to hear it clearly before this night is over. There are moments in life that feel ordinary on the surface but carry extraordinary consequence beneath. This is one of those moments. A powerful blessing is waiting at your door tonight, and you now understand the urgency, the preparation, the personalization, But there is another side that must be spoken with clarity. What happens if you ignore this? Ignoring a divine moment does not usually result in immediate disaster. That is what makes it dangerous. Life simply continues. The days move forward. Routines resume. Nothing dramatic appears to shift. But internally, something subtle begins to settle. Regret. A quiet question that whispers, "What if that was my opportunity?" That whisper can linger for years. When you ignore a knock from God, you are not rejecting Him entirely. You are postponing alignment. And postponed alignment often leads to prolonged wandering. You remain in the hallway longer than necessary. You circle the same challenges. You repeat the same lessons. Not because God is punishing you, but because growth requires participation. There is also the risk of spiritual desensitization. The first time you feel a prompting and dismiss it, your conscience nudges you. The second time, the nudge feels lighter. The third time, it becomes easier to rationalize. Over time, what once felt urgent begins to feel optional. And that is how destiny becomes delayed, not through rebellion, but through gradual indifference. You have prayed for a sign. You have asked God to move. But what happens when movement arrives and you treat it casually? When urgency is met with procrastination? When invitation is met with distraction? Ignoring this moment does not erase the blessing. It relocates it to a future you cannot yet see. And sometimes that future requires another season of testing to rebuild readiness. There are cycles in life that repeat until they are broken. Patterns of fear, patterns of hesitation, patterns of self-doubt. Each time a door appears, you have a chance to break the cycle. If you retreat again, the pattern strengthens. If you step forward, the pattern shatters. Imagine standing at a crossroads. One path leads to familiar comfort, predictable, manageable, safe. The other leads to expansion, uncertain, stretching, transformative. Ignoring the blessing at your door is choosing the familiar path. It feels easier in the moment. But months later, you may look back and realize you are still longing for change. There is also a deeper consequence, missed testimony. Someone connected to your life is waiting to see what God does for you. Your breakthrough is not isolated. It carries ripple effects. When you step into obedience, you inspire courage in others. When you share your testimony, you ignite hope in someone who was about to quit. But if you ignore this moment, that ripple is delayed. The enemy does not need you to fail dramatically. He only needs you to hesitate consistently. Because consistent hesitation produces stagnation. And stagnation feels like stability until you realize you have not grown. Let this be clear: God is patient. He is gracious. He does not abandon you because you falter. But there are seasons of opportunity that are specific. When a door opens, it carries timing. If you miss that timing, another opportunity may come, but it may require a different path, a different process, a different preparation. This is why tonight matters. Ignoring this moment may also reinforce the lie that nothing ever changes. If you treat this as just another inspirational message and move on unchanged, you reinforce your own skepticism. You tell yourself, "See, nothing happened." But the truth is, something was offered. It simply was not embraced. You cannot blame silence when you ignored the knock. There is seriousness attached to spiritual timing. Not fear-based seriousness, but wait. The kind that says, "Pay attention. This matters." You have already journeyed through the waiting, the distraction, the test. To stop now would mean carrying all that growth back into the same space you prayed to leave. Ask yourself honestly, do you want another year of the same frustration? Another cycle of the same internal battle? Another season of asking for signs, but doubting when they appear? Or are you ready to respond differently? Ignoring this moment keeps you safe but small. Responding to it stretches you but strengthens you. The blessing at your door is not an abstract concept. It represents change. And change requires decision. Indecision is itself a decision. The decision to remain where you are. So hear this clearly. You are not being threatened. You are being awakened. You are being invited into alignment. And alignment carries consequence, both when embraced and when ignored. The door is still there. The knock is still present. But awareness creates responsibility. Now that you know, you cannot unknow. Now that you sense it, you cannot pretend you do not. The next step will determine whether this night becomes a memory of missed opportunity or the beginning of a new chapter. This is the moment where words shift from explanation to activation. You have heard about the door. You have sensed the knock. You understand the urgency and the responsibility. Now comes the declaration. Because when God positions a blessing at your door tonight, He does not do it silently. He speaks over it. He releases authority into the atmosphere. And tonight, the declaration is being spoken over your life. I declare that every delay that has lingered beyond its season is breaking. The waiting that felt endless is reaching its conclusion. What held you back is losing its grip. Not gradually, not vaguely, but decisively. There have been an invisible resistance pressing against your progress, but that resistance is weakening even now. The door before you is not fragile. It is established by divine intention. I declare clarity over confusion. The fog that surrounded your decisions is lifting. Where you once saw multiple paths with no direction, you will now see one clear step illuminated. You will not move in anxiety. You will move in confidence. Because when God opens a door, He also provides discernment to walk through it wisely. I declare restoration over what felt lost. Some of you have mourned opportunities you believed were gone forever. You assumed certain chapters had closed permanently. But restoration does not always mean returning to the past. It often means receiving something better than what you lost. What seemed like an ending was preparation for a greater beginning. I declare provision over pressure. The weight you have carried financially, emotionally, spiritually, it has not gone unnoticed. Tonight marks a shift from constant strain to strategic support. Your sources will align. Help will appear. Solutions will surface in ways that feel timely and precise. You will not remain in survival mode. I declare courage over fear. Fear has whispered that you are not ready. Fear has replayed your past mistakes and magnified your weaknesses. But courage is rising within you. Not loud, not reckless, but steady. You will take the step you once postponed. You will make the decision you once avoided. You will respond differently this time. I declare peace over your mind. The racing thoughts that kept you restless will begin to quiet. Sleep will return. Stability will settle into your spirit. Because when you know that God has positioned something specifically for you, anxiety loses its authority. There is also a declaration over your identity. You are not overlooked. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are positioned. Positioned for favor. Positioned for alignment. Positioned for testimony. The narrative that said, "Maybe it is not meant for me," is being rewritten tonight. It is meant for you. The door at your life is not symbolic anymore. It is active. Movement has begun. Conversations are shifting in your favor. Decisions are being made that you are not yet aware of. Hearts are being softened. Opportunities are being prepared. What you could not arrange on your own is being arranged on your behalf. And hear this carefully. You will recognize the blessing when it appears. It will not confuse you. It will resonate. Something inside you will confirm, this is it. A confirmation will feel different from emotional excitement. You will feel grounded, assured. True. I also declare acceleration. Not chaos, not rushed pressure, but divine acceleration. What once moved slowly will begin to progress smoothly. Steps that felt heavy will feel lighter. Resistance will decrease. Momentum will increase. You will look back and realize that what took months to build is now advancing in weeks. But with acceleration comes responsibility. So I declare wisdom alongside favor. You will handle what comes with maturity. You will not sabotage what you prayed for. You will steward the blessing with gratitude and integrity. Tonight is not just about receiving. It is about stepping into alignment with what has already been released. You are not chasing this blessing. You are walking into something that has been walking toward you. Let this declaration settle deeply. You are entering a new chapter. Not because circumstances randomly changed, but because spiritual alignment has reached its appointed moment. The hallway season is ending. The door season is beginning. Stand in that truth. Breathe in that assurance. A stack movement. Because what has been declared over you tonight carries authority. And as you prepare for the final confirmation of this message, understand that the closing carries completion. The next words will seal what has already been spoken and position you fully in the confidence of what is now unfolding. We return to where this began. Stop. God says, you prayed for a sign, and this is it. A powerful blessing is waiting at your door tonight. Don't scroll past. Open this urgently before it disappears. Now you understand why those words carried weight. This was never just an introduction. It was an announcement. From the very first moment, heaven was interrupting your routine to deliver confirmation. You asked for a sign. You asked God to show you that He was still moving, still listening, still involved in the details of your life. And tonight, the answer has met you. The blessing is not on its way. It is not being processed. It is not stuck in delay. It is already at your door. That means the waiting season has shifted into a receiving season. The preparation phase has transitioned into manifestation. You are no longer standing outside the promise wondering if it exists. You are standing in front of it, hand near the handle, heart awakened to possibility. This message was never about hype. It was about alignment. Every part of it was designed to bring you into awareness. Awareness that you are seen. Awareness that timing matters. Awareness that your response carries power. And now that awareness has matured into confidence. You are not the same person who began listening. Something inside you has adjusted. Your posture has shifted from doubt to expectancy, from hesitation to readiness, from fear to courage. That internal shift is the true miracle of this night. The blessing at your door is not merely external change. It is internal transformation meeting external opportunity. It is who you have become in the waiting season finally aligning with what God prepared during it. There will be tangible evidence. Conversations that surprise you. Doors that open more smoothly than you expected. Peace that settles where anxiety once ruled. Provision that arrives in ways you could not have predicted. But before any of that becomes visible, let this truth anchor you. It is already positioned. You do not need to beg for what God has already sent. You do not need to strive for what has already been assigned. You simply need to open the door with faith. And when you do not step through timidly. Step through with gratitude. Step through with humility. Step through with the understanding that this blessing is not random. It is intentional. It carries purpose. It carries responsibility. It carries testimony. There are people who will one day hear your story and find hope because you chose to respond tonight. Your obedience will ripple further than you can see. Your courage will become someone else's confirmation. Your breakthrough will remind others that God still answers prayers. So let this be the sealing moment. If you feel this in your spirit, type "IT is done" in the comments. Blessing code 501 is now activated. As you write those words, you are declaring completion. You are agreeing that what heaven initiated has now been received in faith. And hear this final assurance. You are not walking into this alone. The same God who prepared the door walks with you through it. The same God who aligned the timing sustains the outcome. The same God who answered your whispered prayer continues to guide your steps. Tonight is not about emotional excitement. It is about settled confidence. It is about knowing that you were interrupted for a reason, that you were positioned intentionally, that this was not coincidence but orchestration. The blessing is at your door. Peace replaces panic. Expectation replaces doubt. Clarity replaces confusion. You will look back on this night and recognize it as the turning point, the moment you chose to open instead of ignore, to trust instead of retreat, to move instead of remain. You prayed for a sign. This was it. Now open the door. What was released tonight must continue flowing. When you sow into this mission through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal, the link is in the description and the PayPal QR code is on your screen. You are not supporting a channel. You are advancing a divine assignment. The word declares that when you give, it returns multiplied, and that promise is alive over your obedience right now. I am stepping through my door, and I choose to empower this message to knock on thousands more. Your seed becomes a river, carrying hope to those still praying for their sign. Do not delay this act of faith. Move as one who knows heaven responds. As you give, may doors swing open in your life without resistance. May provision overflow, and may favor surround you like a shield. Release your seed now and seal your obedience with action.